Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about taking a sabbatical from being a doctor. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story, but mainly there are 4 ways that you can deal with burnout. So the first one would be talk to your CMO. So I tried to do this. I tried to talk to my CMO about how tired I was, about how stressed I was, about my schedule, and they were somewhat understanding, but they really weren't that helpful. And so I will talk about what I did a little bit later in this video. But you can definitely talk to your CMO, talk to your medical director, and just tell them how you're feeling, ask about any schedule changes, dipping into any PTO or any vacation time, or even just like counseling resources or therapy resources at your job. So number 2, you can ask for reasonable accommodations. So a lot of doctors don't know that you can actually ask your work for reasonable accommodations. And by law, they need to engage with the process with you. So they need to actually come back and tell you why it's reasonable or why it's not reasonable. And you should definitely be working with an employment lawyer to go about this process and make sure that your rights are preserved. Because in a lot of cases, and I've actually had a friend go through this, their employer was not open to it at all and didn't follow due process for what she was able to get, which is accommodations. So in order to get accommodations, you actually have to work with a medical provider. So you have to work with either your own doctor or a therapist that would recommend that you have some accommodations. So an example of this would be if you want to see exclusively telehealth patients. So say you want half of your clinic schedule to be telehealth. You can actually talk to your therapist about why this would be better for your mental health, and they can write a letter to your job asking for accommodations. So the other way that you can get time away from work, accommodations, would be something called FMLA. If you are a doctor, you are familiar with this because we write this for our patients all the time, but you are also entitled to family and medical leave. So this goes into number 3, which is talk to your therapist. So a lot of doctors maybe don't want to go to therapy or they're afraid, but a therapist is a really good way for you to be able to figure out how to treat your burnout. And also they're going to be able to write letters for you if you do need accommodations, FMLA, or to go on disability. So for me, I was incredibly burned out and I was working with my therapist for about 6 months. And so my schedule, basically my work was so short-staffed. We were covering for a doctor that had been gone for 6 months, and we were constantly filling in the gaps for doctors who were sick. And basically it caused me to have panic attacks at work. And so my therapist was able to write me a letter that qualified me for FMLA. And then I was able to apply for disability as well. So disability is money that you've already paid into with your work. So you'd have to check on the California website, the California EDD website, basically, to see if you qualify. But it's money you've already paid into. And so if your doctor writes you a note and you qualify, then they will pay you something that's proportionate to the money that you've been earning. So that's what I did. And it was able to give me a little bit of buffer while I was able to grow my business and everything like that. So, and of note, disability does not interfere with any money that you make with your own business. It would only count if you had another job where you earned a wage, then you could not collect the same amount, or disability in general. But if you have your own business, you can still collect that from a prior employer. So number 4 is you can just take a sabbatical. So you can leave your job, you can take a break. I would recommend looking into some of these other options first, just so you can support your income. But you can always take a break and just travel, take a break and look at other options. But you would have to have some savings, and sometimes this is a little easier if you have a partner or some family support, but it's always something to think about if you just really want to prioritize your mental health. So check out my other videos. I'm going to give you a little bit more information about FMLA and disability.